Okay, good day everyone. So lovely to see you all again. I think it's been about 2 months since I last saw you. It feels about 2 days. Hopefully I remember all your names. And I know you guys have been doing really, really well. I got to see some of your feature articles. So well done. Loved Animal Farm. And I see that you've all moved on to poetry. How's that going? Good? You're enjoying the poetry? No. Well, today is going to be a really fun lesson and I have come bearing gifts. So hopefully it will be a good poetry lesson. And I see that Miss Maygard is already onto it. So I just thought I would say thank you for having me back and just run through the prior learning that you've had this week and where we're going with the lesson, just so that you understand what we're going to cover off today. So from what Miss Maygard has told me, on Tuesday she handed out the task sheet to you. You should all have a copy of that with you. On Wednesday you started to look at selecting your poems. Have you all managed to select your poems for the examination?
Yeah.
Yes? Anyone hasn't yet? No? You need a bit more time?
I only got it like
Okay. So perhaps by the end of the weekend you will make that selection. Well, today's lesson will really help you in making that selection, I think. And then you started to deconstruct the task, and I can see you've been doing some work on that, so you understand what's required in part A of the task. And then today, where we're going with today's lesson. So I have taken upon myself to put up some learning intentions. We're going to look at a video and an audio of a poem that I have found in your booklet that you had. Do you all have your booklet that says poems not examination use?
Yeah.
So the topic and the theme. When you think of the words topic and theme, what do you think of? What comes to mind?
what the poem's about.
What the poem's about, yes. The big idea. The underlying story. Okay, so when you read through the poem, it should be very obvious what that theme is. Could there be one theme? There could be multiple themes. Yes, absolutely. Okay, visual imagery. When you hear the words visual imagery, what does that mean from a textual perspective? When you're looking through a poem, if you had to look for visual imagery, what would you be looking for?
Describing words.
Describing words. Okay, so what do we call adjectives? Yes? Metaphors. Excellent. Angus?
Words make you feel, touch, see.
Excellent. Okay, so the 5 senses. The things that make you feel something. So there's a descriptive imagery. It creates a picture in your mind. If nothing else, when you read the word visual imagery, think picture. Which words in this poem is giving me a picture in my mind or making me feel something? Okay, so that's what you're looking for. C, auditory devices. It's a bit of a tricky word, auditory devices. If we're thinking about poetic auditory devices, anyone think of what that might be? Henry? Rhyming and rhythm. Excellent. Okay, so when we read My Country, particularly for rhyming and rhythm, look at the stanzas. So stanzas being verses. In My Country, there's 6 stanzas in this poem. Look at the rhyming scheme. So see if you can see a rhyming scheme. That means, are there any words that rhyme, and if so, how? So if you guys all look at that first stanza, the love of field and coppice, of green and shaded lanes, of ordered woods and gardens, is running in your veins. Do you think that there's a rhyming scheme there?
Yes.
Okay. Can anyone identify it?
Every line. Every second. No. Line for line.
Okay. A, B, C, B. That's exactly right. So if you were going to identify what the rhythm and the rhyming scheme is, you would say A, B, C, B. And it's that second and that 4th line. Does everyone get that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. All right. There's another word. It starts with an O. It's a funny word to spell. If anyone can spell it, I'll give you $10. Okay, who wants to try? Come spell it.
It's on the board.
Don't look, you don't want to look.
Shoes, your eyes closed, look.
P-E-A. There's no
There's no line. There's no
It's
line.
got the O before the E.
But that was really good. You just needed to put an O. Good effort. Good effort. Well done. Thank you for trying. Let's all give them a hand. Well done. If you just take out your laptops and please put your earphones in and listen to the way that the poet has written that poem, because she is reading it herself. She wrote it in 1908. She was 19 years old. She was 19 years old. And she was living in England. She was homesick for Australia. And she wrote this poem. So the first stanza is about England. The rest of the stanzas are about Australia. And listen to the way she speaks, because it's really beautiful. It's how they used to speak at the turn of the last century. And make sure that you're reading through the poem as you're listening. Okay, so what did you think listening to that? Did everyone understand her voice and her accent? Quite different. So she wasn't 19 when she read that poem. She was on her deathbed at the age of 83, I think. She died in the 1960s. But she was 19 when she wrote that. So what would the major theme of that poem be? One theme. Go on. She loved Australia. So it was the love for Australia? Okay. How do you know that it's Australia? How do you recognize that she's talking about Australia? Because she doesn't actually say Australia in the text.
Then she just describes it.
How does she describe it? What does she use to describe it?
Sunburnt country.
As a sunburned country. That could have been Namibia.
She describes all the characteristics of Australia.
Okay. Excellent. Very good word.
A lot of cattle in there.
What other characteristics besides sunburnt country? Hang it.
Droughts and flooding rain.
Okay.
Australia has full of drought.
Okay. Yep. All right. So words associated with the Australian landscape.
Yeah. Rugged mountain ranges.
Rugged mountain
Still
ranges.
sea.
Yes. Very descriptive, very visual. Do you think that a 19-year-old today, so think of yourself in, 3 years' time? About that? Do you think that you would write a poem about Australia that sounds like that?
No.
No? Do you love Australia the way that she loves Australia? No? Have you ever lived overseas and moved back? You have? Nathan, you have?
Yeah.
And how did you feel coming back to Australia?
It feels like home.
It feels like home. Excellent. Okay. So, the fact that you have a connection with this poem means that this might have been a good poem for you. It's not one you can request because it's not an examination poem. But you would have immediately, just by saying that, have hit section D. So that personal reflection and that relation to the poem. Okay, so having chatted about the poem, I want you in your groups, in your tables now, to have a little chat amongst yourselves. There are 4 A, B, C, D roles based on the task. Okay, there's the topic and theme, the visual imagery, auditory devices, and the personal reflection. When there's 4 of you, you decide amongst yourselves, okay? So you have independent choice which one's going to be A, B, C, and D. Try and do it diplomatically. Where there are 3 of you, one of you has to assume 2 roles, or you can do the 4th role altogether. Okay, you decide that how you would like to do that. You've got free reign. Where there's 5 of you, 2 of you will assume the same role. Does that make sense? Okay, so A, B, C, D. Another one of you will have the choice of an A, B, or C, D. Okay, so you've got 1 minute to quickly decide on your roles, and then we're going to start the exercise. Okay, if I can just have your attention, please. All right. Jono. Thank you. Thank you, Ethan. Okay, so you've all been allocated your roles. I want you now to spend 2 minutes writing one sentence. Okay, one sentence. If you've got the topical theme, you're writing what the topical theme is and why you think that's the case. So you need an example. You need to be able to provide evidence of why you think it's a topical theme. If you're person 2, you're looking for one example of visual imagery, just one example. So you're stating what it is and you're going to explain it. So what image is it presenting to you? The same goes for person 3. Find an auditory device, just one, and explain it. So do you see how I'm using the words explain, evidence, examples? What does that link to?
Peel.
Peel. Excellent. Well done. Okay. So we're talking about peel, point, evidence, elaboration, link. And if you're person 4, D, the personal reflection. 1 point of why it relates to you. Why does it, and I don't want to hear because I live in Australia. It needs to be something that has depth. Okay, try and use your adjectives. Try and use your beautiful language. Okay, so well done. You guys did that really, really well. I went around and I listened to at least one role or person, and it was fantastic. You've nailed it. So you understand the themes and the topics. You can easily go and write your poem and find the theme of your poem. You all understand how to do that now. Okay, a lot of you understand visual imagery as well. You've got that metaphor, that simile, that emotive description, those adjectives. So you just got to be able to identify those and explain by elaborating why you've used that as a piece of evidence, an example of, say, for example, personification. It's full of personifications. Sunburned country, where's the personification in that? Sunburn. Okay. Country can't be sunburned. All right, so look for those types of words. So there is an exemplar, which I believe you all have, of an examination that was done last year by a student. And he has gone through A, B, C, and D and received an A, I believe, for this. A low A for this. Okay, so if you are not sure how to write these paragraphs, these 4 paragraphs based on A, B, C, D, go through the exemplar and look for the peel. Okay, so look for the first sentence that's looking for the point. So for example, in this exemplar, My Country by Dorothea McKellar has the main overarching theme of love. That's the point of that whole paragraph. Then he's gone on to give evidence, in inverted commas, of an example of where she's shown that love of the country. He's elaborated by explaining why that personification is showing the love for the country, and then has finished the paragraph with a link. Okay, and that's bringing it back to that initial point, that original thesis or idea, if you will. And you've got to do that 4 times for each paragraph. Okay, so hand those back to me as you leave today. And hopefully by the end of this lesson, you have understood your task more thoroughly. Is that true? Yes. Yes, you understood now how to do it? And you understand how to use peel paragraphs? Yes. Okay, excellent. Thank you very, very much, everyone. Good luck with your task.
Can I keep, please?